They say the hardest part of deployment is being away. They talk about the heat, the sand that gets into your pores and never leaves, the constant, low-level hum of adrenaline that burns out your adrenal glands until you feel nothing but a gray numbness. But they're wrong. The hardest part isn't the leaving. It isn't the fighting. The hardest part is coming home. It was 4 a.m. when the transport plane touched down on the tarmac. My joints ached from 20 hours of sitting in a cargo net seat. My duffel bag sat heavy on my shoulder, weighing exactly 45 pounds, smelling of jet fuel and stale desert dust. I hadn't slept in 2 days. I didn't care. I hadn't told Vanessa I was coming home 2 weeks early. I wanted it to be like the movies. I wanted to walk through the door, drop my bag, and catch her in my arms. But mostly, if I'm being honest, I wanted to see him. Ranger. I hailed a cab at the edge of the base. The city was asleep, bathed in the orange glow of streetlights. As we turned onto my street, my heart started to hammer against my ribs. Not from stress. From pure, unadulterated joy. Ranger was a golden retriever, but calling him a dog felt like an insult. He was my shadow. 4 years ago, after my second tour, I came back broken. I couldn't handle loud noises. I couldn't sleep without checking the locks 5 times. The doctors gave me pills. Ranger gave me a purpose. He would sense the panic attacks before I did, pressing his 90-pound body against my legs, grounding me to the earth. I paid the driver and stood on the sidewalk. The house looked pristine. Too pristine. The grass was cut to a military standard I hadn't maintained. I walked up the porch steps, trying to be quiet. I whispered to the door, a ritual I had played out in my head 1,000 times over the last 6 months. Ranger. Daddy's home. I expected the explosion. The frantic scrambling of claws on hardwood. The deep, excited woof that would wake the neighbors. The thud of a heavy body hitting the door. I turned the key. The lock tumbled with a smooth click. I pushed the door open. Silence. Absolute, sterile, deafening silence. The air inside didn't smell like home. It didn't smell like my old leather chair or the wood smoke from the fireplace. It smelled of aggressive lavender and chemical cleaner. It smelled like a hospital waiting room. Vanessa? I called out, stepping into the foyer. Ranger? My voice echoed. That was wrong. The house shouldn't echo. I walked into the living room and froze. The duffel bag slipped from my shoulder and hit the floor with a thud. It wasn't my living room. My overstuffed brown leather sofa? Gone. My rustic oak coffee table with the coffee ring stains? Gone. The bookshelf filled with my military history collection? Gone. In their place was a showroom. Sharp, white angular sofas that looked uncomfortable just to look at. A glass coffee table with sharp edges. Abstract art on the walls that looked like spilled paint. David? The voice came from the top of the stairs. I looked up. Vanessa was standing on the landing. She wasn't wearing the excited smile I had dreamed of. She was wearing a silk robe and a look of genuine annoyance, as if I were a delivery driver who had rung the doorbell during her nap. You're early, she said, tightening the robe. You weren't supposed to be back until the 20th. She didn't run down the stairs. She didn't cry. She didn't hug me. She stayed on the landing, gripping the banister like a barrier. I caught a transport hop, I said, my voice sounding raspy. I looked around the room again, searching for the dog bed in the corner. It wasn't there. The water bowl by the kitchen door? Gone. Where is he, Ness? I asked, a cold pit forming in my stomach. Where's Ranger? Vanessa sighed, a long, dramatic exhale that signaled I was already exhausting her. She descended the stairs slowly, stopping 3 feet away from me. Too far to touch. Look, David, she began, using that condescending tone she adopted whenever she watched too many interior design shows. We need to talk about the energy of this house. While you were gone, I did a lot of thinking. And redecorating. I'm entering a new phase of my life. I'm upgrading our lifestyle. She gestured to the white furniture. This is Italian minimalism. It breathes. It flows. I don't care about the furniture, Vanessa. I cut her off, my hands starting to shake. Where is my dog? Is he at the kennel? Is he with your sister? She examined her fingernails, avoiding my eyes. No. He didn't fit the aesthetic. My blood ran cold. The world tilted on its axis. The aesthetic? I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. Vanessa, he's a living, breathing animal. He's my service dog. He's my partner. What do you mean he didn't fit the aesthetic? He shed, David. She snapped, dropping the calm facade. He shed everywhere. Do you know how much these white rugs cost? $4,000. I couldn't have that beast dragging mud in here and leaving hair on my velvet sofas. I couldn't have my friends over for wine nights with a shedding animal wandering around begging for food. It was gross. Where is he? I sold him, she said casually. The silence that followed was heavier than the one before. It was the silence of a bomb counting down. You what? I sold him, she repeated louder, defensive now. 3 weeks ago. To a breeder upstate. Or a broker? I don't know, the guy paid cash. $2,000. I used it to buy that chandelier. She pointed a manicured finger up at the ceiling. Hanging above us was a monstrosity of crystal and chrome, glittering under the LED lights. Cold. Sharp. Soulless. You sold my dog. I whispered, staring at the crystals. You sold the animal that saved my life. For a light fixture? Oh, stop being so dramatic, she scoffed, walking past me to the kitchen to pour herself a glass of water. You're always so emotional. It's embarrassing. You're a soldier, for God's sake. Act like a man, not a child who lost his teddy bear. Honestly, David, it's better this way. You were too dependent on him. It was pathetic. You need to learn to function without a crutch. I stood there, rooted to the spot. I looked at the woman I had married 3 years ago. I tried to find the person I fell in love with. She was gone. Or maybe she never existed. Maybe she was just a mirror, reflecting whatever she thought would get her what she wanted. And right now, she wanted a white house and a husband who didn't come with baggage like a PTSD service dog. You have 24 hours, I said. My voice wasn't loud. It was the voice I used when calling in coordinates for an airstrike. Flat. Precise. Deadly. Vanessa paused, the glass halfway to her lips. Excuse me? You have 24 hours to get him back, I said. I don't care who you sold him to. I don't care what it costs. Get him back. Vanessa laughed. It was a cruel, tinkling sound. Don't be ridiculous. The deal is done. No returns. Besides, I spent the money. And I am not bringing that animal back into my new house. This is my sanctuary now. Now, are you going to shower? You smell like sand and airplane fuel. It's clashing with my diffuser. We have a dinner reservation at 8 o'clock. My friends want to see the new remodel. Wear the blue suit. It matches the curtains. I looked at her. Really looked at her. I saw the contempt in her eyes. She didn't see a husband returning from war. She saw an accessory. A wallet. A prop for her perfect life. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a violent snap. It was a mechanical snap. The switch flipping from husband to tactical operator. In the field, when you realize a position is compromised, you don't argue with the enemy. You assess the assets. You secure the perimeter. And you neutralize the threat. You're right, I lied. The words felt strange, but my face remained a mask of calm. Vanessa blinked, surprised by my sudden submission. I am? Yes, I nodded slowly. I smell terrible. And the house, it looks expensive. I should shower. We can talk about the remodel at dinner. She smiled, triumphant. She thought she had won. She thought she had broken me to her will, just like she replaced the furniture. Good boy. Hurry up. I don't want to be late. I walked up the stairs, past the guest room. The door was ajar. I glanced inside. Stacked against the wall were boxes. My boxes. My books. My trophies. My military gear. All packed away, taped shut, ready for storage. She had erased me from the house while I was fighting for my country. I went into the master bedroom and locked the door. I didn't turn on the shower. I went straight to the closet floor safe. I prayed she hadn't changed the code. She was lazy with numbers. Beep. 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 Whir. The light turned green. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I reached past the emergency cash and the passports. I pulled out a thick, black leather binder. The deployment protocol binder. Inside was the deed to the house. I bought this place 3 years before we met. It was a foreclosure I picked up for a song and restored with my own hands. It was in my name. Solely. When we got married, she nagged me to add her to the title, but I had dragged my feet. Something in my gut had stopped me. Then I deployed. I had signed a limited power of attorney giving her the right to manage household bills and make minor repairs. I flipped to the POA document. My eyes scanned the fine print, searching for the clause my JAG lawyer had insisted on inserting. Authority to manage accounts and maintenance, explicitly excluding the sale, transfer, mortgage, or encumbrance of real estate assets. I smiled. A cold, humorless smile. She thought she owned this house because she picked the curtains. She thought she could sell my dog because she managed the household. I pulled out my phone. It was 4:15 p.m. I dialed the number. Hello? This is realtor Mark Jacobs, a voice answered. Mark was an old buddy from boot camp. Mark, I said, keeping my voice low so Vanessa wouldn't hear me over the sound of her humming downstairs. It's David. I'm back. David. Welcome home, brother. How's the wife? How's Ranger? Ranger is gone, I said. She sold him. She what? Who sells a service dog? Mark, listen to me. I need a favor. A big one. And I need it fast. Name it. I want to sell the house. Whoa, okay. When? Next month? No, I said, looking at the chandelier receipt Vanessa had left on the dresser. Today. Tonight. I want it listed as an as-is, cash only, immediate possession fire sale. Price at 20% under market value. I want to trigger a bidding war instantly. David, does she know? It's my house, Mark. Premarital asset. You have the deed on file. She doesn't need to know until the new owners walk through the door. Brother, this is nuclear. No, Mark, I whispered, hearing Vanessa downstairs bragging on the phone to her friends about her new rug. Selling my dog was nuclear. This is just cleaning house. Can you get a sign in the yard by tomorrow morning? For you? I'll do it myself. Make it 8 a.m., I said. Right when her brunch starts. I hung up. I shoved the binder back into the safe. I turned on the shower, stepping into the scalding spray just as the doorknob jiggled. David? She called through the door. Hurry up. I want to get a good table. Coming, honey, I shouted back. I washed the desert off my skin. But I couldn't wash off the anger. Tonight we would go to dinner. I would smile. I would pay for her expensive wine. I would listen to her talk about textures and color palettes. And tomorrow I would sell the roof over her head. The dinner that night was a masterclass in endurance. We went to a place with tablecloths so white they hurt your eyes. Vanessa ordered a $300 bottle of Cabernet without even asking me. To the house, she said, her eyes gleaming with greed. And to you, finally being back to pay for the rest of the kitchen. I clinked my glass against hers. To the house, I echoed. I watched her eat. I watched her laugh. Every bite of steak tasted like ash in my mouth. All I could think about was Ranger. Was he eating tonight? Was he cold? Was he wondering why I hadn't come for him? We drove home in silence. We slept in the same bed, separated by a chasm of secrets. She dreamed of her perfect life. I stared at the ceiling, counting down the minutes until sunrise. The next morning was bright and painfully sunny. By 9 a.m., the house was buzzing with activity. Vanessa was in her element, directing the caterers she had hired for her brunch. I was relegated to the kitchen, tasked with cutting fruit. At 10 a.m., the guests arrived. The girls. A gaggle of women who wore shoes that cost more than a corporal's monthly paycheck. "Oh my God, Ness, the space is divine," one voice squealed. "It feels so much bigger without that bulky furniture. And the smell," another cooed. "It smells so clean. What did you do with that giant beast? The one that drooled?" My hand froze on the knife. "Oh, Ranger?" Vanessa's voice floated through the air, dismissive and light. I rehomed him. "Best decision ever. Look at these white rugs. Not a hair in sight. Besides, the money from the rehoming fee paid for the catering today. So, in a way, Ranger is feeding us." Laughter. Cruel, tinkling, soulless laughter echoed through the house I had built. "Cheers to that," someone shouted. "Out with the old, in with the chic." I put the knife down. The rage was no longer a hot fire. It was a cold, solid block of ice in my chest. They were eating fruit paid for by my best friend's exile. I looked out the kitchen window toward the driveway. It was 10:05 a.m. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. Then a pickup truck. Then a luxury SUV. Mark Jacobs stepped out of the first car. He was in a sharp navy suit. He walked onto the lawn, my perfectly manicured lawn, and positioned a red metal sign right in front of the massive bay window where Vanessa and her friends were standing. Whack! 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 The sound of the mallet driving the stake into the earth reverberated through the house. "What was that?" a guest asked. Mark hung the metal placard from the post. "For sale. Price reduced. Cash only. Open house now." "Ness," one friend whispered. "Why is there a realtor hammering a for sale sign into your flower bed?" Vanessa spun around. She stared out the window. "What on earth?" She marched to the front door and threw it open. "Hey! You! Get off my lawn! What do you think you're doing?" The guests followed her. Mark looked up. "Morning, Mrs. Blackwood. Just following client instructions. Open house starts in 10 seconds. "Client instructions?" Vanessa shrieked. "I didn't authorize this. I'll sue you." "Actually," I said, stepping onto the porch, "I authorized it." Vanessa whipped around. "David? What is this? Is this some kind of sick joke?" "No joke, Ness," I said calmly. My voice carried across the lawn. "You said you wanted to upgrade your lifestyle. You said Ranger didn't fit the aesthetic. Well, I realized something last night during dinner." "What?" she hissed. "I realized I don't fit the aesthetic either. And since I pay the mortgage, I decided to liquidate the asset." "Liquidate?" Her eyes widened. "You can't sell our house. It's our house." "Correction." I pulled the folded deed from my back pocket. "It's my house. Acquired 2018. Sole ownership. Premarital asset. And thanks to the prenup you signed because you thought you were the one with the money. I don't need your permission." Before she could scream, a stream of cars began to park along the street. The investor blast Mark had sent out was working. These weren't families looking for a starter home. These were sharks. Flippers. They started walking up the driveway, ignoring Vanessa completely. "Excuse me," a man in a leather jacket pushed past Vanessa, stepping into the foyer. He looked at the floor. "Is the foundation original?" "Doesn't matter, I'll probably gut it anyway." "Gut it?" Vanessa gasped. "Excuse me. This is a custom renovation. That chandelier is Italian crystal." "It's tacky," the investor grunted. "Looks like a disco ball. First thing to go. I'll give you 300 grand cash, close in 7 days." 300? The chandelier alone was 2,000. Vanessa screamed. 350, another voice called out. "But I want possession in 48 hours." I have a demo crew ready for Monday. Vanessa stood in the center of her perfect living room, spinning in circles. Her sanctuary was being invaded. Strangers were walking on her white rugs with muddy shoes. David, stop them! Vanessa grabbed my arm. They're ruining the party. Tell them to leave. This is my home. I looked down at her hand on my arm. I felt nothing. Why? I asked. They're offering good money. Cash. Which is good, because you're going to need it for a security deposit on an apartment. An apartment? She stepped back. You're kicking me out? You're divorcing me? You sold my dog, Vanessa, I said. The room went silent. You sold the animal that kept me alive. You sold him for a rug. Did you really think there was coming back from that? He was just a dog. She screamed, stomping her foot. He was a dirty, smelly animal. I am your wife. He was loyal, I countered. He never lied to me. He never stole from me. And he certainly never tried to erase me from my own home while I was at war. Mark walked over, a contract in hand. David, the gentleman in the leather jacket, just offered full asking price. Cash. He can close tomorrow. I looked at the investor. Does the offer include the contents? The investor looked around at the white sofas and the crystal chandelier. He shrugged. Sure. I'll dumpster it, but I'll take it off your hands. Dumpster it? Vanessa gasped. That sofa is custom velvet. It's trash to me, lady, the investor said. Sold, I said to Mark. I took the pen. I leaned over the kitchen island and signed my name. Vanessa watched the ink dry. Her face went pale. The reality finally hit her. The house was gone. The furniture was trash. You have 48 hours to vacate, the investor told her. Anything left inside on Monday morning goes to the landfill. Vanessa looked at me. She was trembling. David, please. Where will I go? My parents are in Florida. I have no job. I have nowhere. You have the $2,000 from the dog, right? I asked, my voice as cold as the grave. That should cover a week at a motel. Maybe the one by the highway? I hear they allow pets. Oh wait, you don't have one anymore. I walked past her. I headed for the door where my duffel bag was waiting. Where are you going? She cried out. I have a lead, I said. Mark's assistant found the broker you used. I turned to look at her one last time. She looked small, standing under that massive, gaudy chandelier. I'm going to find my dog, Vanessa. Don't be here when I get back. I walked out the door and got into Mark's car. I didn't look back at the house. It was just wood and brick. My home was somewhere out there, scared and alone. The address Mark found wasn't a breeder's estate. It was a corrugated metal barn 2 counties over. The sign read, Elite K9 Brokerage. I stopped the car. The silence was broken by a sound that made my blood boil. Barking. Frantic, terrified barking. I stepped out. The smell hit me instantly. Ammonia. Bleach. Fear. I walked up the gravel path. A man in a greasy trucker hat walked out of the barn. Help you? He grunted. I'm looking for a golden retriever, I said. Sold to you 3 weeks ago. By a woman named Vanessa. His name is Ranger. The man squinted. Ranger? Yeah. Big male. Purebred. Where is he? Back of the barn, the man shrugged. But you can't see him. Defective merchandise. I grabbed the door before he could close it. Defective? What does that mean? I mean he won't eat, the broker snapped. Damn dog hasn't eaten in 3 days. Just lays there facing the wall. I'm thinking of sending him to the pound tomorrow. Waste of cage space. The rage I felt was blinding. Take me to him. Look, buddy. Take me to him. He swallowed hard. Follow me. He led me through the barn. It was a nightmare. At the very back, in a dark corner, was a small crate. There was a lump of gold fur in the corner, curled into a tight ball, facing the metal wall. Ranger? I whispered. The lump didn't move. I knelt down on the dirty concrete. I pressed my face against the wire mesh. Ranger, buddy. It's me. Daddy's here. An ear twitched. Slowly, painfully, the dog lifted his head. His eyes were dull, rimmed with red. He looked at me, uncomprehending. He sniffed the air. He smelled home. A low whine started in his throat. It grew louder, turning into a desperate yelp. He scrambled to his feet, pressing his wet nose against the wire, crying a sound of pure, desperate relief. Open it, I said, my voice cracking. That'll be 3,000, the broker said behind me. I paid 2. I need a profit. I stood up slowly. You want money? I pulled out my phone. I have the receipt from my wife. But I also have Ranger's registration papers. He is a certified service animal for a disabled veteran. Under federal law, selling stolen medical equipment is a felony. I have the sheriff on speed dial. Do you want $3,000? Or do you want a federal raid on this facility within the hour? The broker looked at the phone. He looked at my face. He looked at the dog barking joyfully behind me. He fished a key ring out of his pocket and tossed it to me. Take him. Just get him out of here. I unlocked the cage. Ranger didn't run out. He fell into me. He buried his head in my chest, his whole body shaking. I wrapped my arms around him, smelling the dirt and the fear, and I wept. Let's go home, buddy, I whispered. 6 months later. The sun was setting over the lake. I sat on the dock of the A-frame cabin I had bought with the cash from the house sale. It wasn't a mansion. It didn't have crystal chandeliers. It had pine floors and silence. Real silence. Ranger was lying next to me, chewing on a large stick. He had gained his weight back. The sadness in his eyes was gone. My phone buzzed. It was an email from my lawyer. Final decree of divorce. The judge had upheld the prenup. Vanessa got nothing from the sale. She was broke, living in her sister's guest room. There was a message from her. Tell David I'm sorry. I miss the house. I miss him. I miss the life we had. Ask him if we can just talk. I made a mistake. I looked at Ranger. What do you think, buddy? She says she misses us. Should we call her? Ranger sneezed, grabbed his stick, and trotted off toward the trees, tail wagging high. Yeah, I laughed. That's what I thought. I didn't reply. She had traded loyalty for luxury. She wanted a perfect aesthetic? She got it. A perfectly empty life. I stood up. Come on, boy. Steak tonight. They say karma is a bitch. I disagree. Karma is a mirror. It reflects exactly what you give. Vanessa gave coldness, and she got the cold. I gave loyalty, and I got my best friend back. I walked into my small, wooden cabin. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't trendy. But as Ranger curled up on the rug in front of the fire, I realized something. It was the most beautiful place I had ever seen.